I don't even know if I'm gonna have time to actually film this video. The kiddo is sleeping and I've got to be pretty quiet for this video. But what I wanted to do in this video is talk about the lights that my core lighting kit that I bring on to any shoot, and especially if I don't have time to location scout or something. And I figured to make this video harder on myself, I would try to just light this scene right here and use said lights in the video and talk about like the kind of the use case I have for those different lights. And then any of the lights that I don't use, I'll still mention, and also just like maybe throw in some B-roll of some relevant shots with using those lights. So that said, let's go ahead and get started. And the first light will be my 600D Pro. We'll go ahead and get this all set up. First of all, we'll kill the overhead lights. And I'm going to use the 600D Pro and I'm gonna push light through this window coming from outside and hopefully get some light kind of sweeping across this floor here. I'll be using a combo stand for this because I kind of gotta get over this bush right here. The light is actually overcast now, so kind of nice because I don't have to worry about battling sunlight. So just using the F10 for now. All right, I've got it at full flood mode. And then to power this, I'm going to use the Aputure Delta Pro. This thing is a beast. I've got a video on it. Go check it out. This thing is so clutch, comes in so handy, especially when power is not as accessible. Okay, that looks pretty sweet. Even got some like foliage in front of it with like some breeze. So you kind of got this like more natural looking light in my opinion. So that's cool. And the Delta Pro is powering that. So no worries about having to run out of power on that thing. That thing will run it for well beyond the duration of this. And that thing's just great to be able to charge V-mounts and all that kind of stuff. Or if the power goes out, you have a backup power solution. All right, next up is the key light. So I'm gonna use the Nova P300C for that. This is a panel light and I purchased this literally within minutes of them announcing it. Same with the 600D Pro, just because it's that awesome of a light. And for this, I'll use a low boy combo, just because I'll be sitting on the ground. I'm gonna get the light source a little lower to the ground. Now my two main uses for this light are pushing through something like a magic cloth or a quarter grid cloth, some kind of fabric to make the source bigger, therefore softening the light. But I also find myself often using this light as an exposure lift for a room if the back of the room is pretty dark. So it just kind of depends on the application. So that's at full tilt. Obviously that's gonna be too hard. I'm not even gonna sit in for this because I know that's gonna be too hard of a light. I honestly don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Instead of just talking about the light, it'd be way easier. So that's even looking a little bit better. I might even throw some fabric on top of that just to see if I can diffuse that just a little bit. All right, so that is basically double diffused now at 100%. And basically what I have is I have a 4x silk frame just with some magic cloth draped over it. And I don't hate the exposure there, honestly. I think this looks fine, at least on my monitor. And the idea is to have, you know, sunlight kind of coming from that side and kind of wrapping around my face. All right, this next up is the Amaran 300C. And what I like to use this for a lot is an accent light. And the idea with this light is to just add a little bit more hard light, just to kind of continue that motivated light from that window. And since we kind of have that light coming through the window, sweeping across this floor, my intention is to kind of carry that hard light across here a little bit. All right, so I've moved the key light over to wrap this around, and I changed the CCT of that to 6800 Kelvin. We'll get into that in a second. But the last thing I want to do is attempt to try to get a little bit of light on this right here. So what I'm gonna do is bring the 300D Mark II outside and try to push light through that other window. All right, so I've got that light back there. It doesn't look super natural with the light kind of hitting that back, but I figured I would be covering that anyways. But it gives just a little bit of visual interest there, just gives a little bit of texture on that basket back there. All right, so to recap, that's the last light I have time to set up. So we have the Lightstorm 600D Pro, and that is outside pushing through the window, and that's creating the main motivation for the key light. So it's giving nice texture there on the floor. And then over my right shoulder, you can see just that little bit of light there on the back wall. You can kind of see the texture of those blinds. And then outside I have the 300D, and that's going literally just through this window right here, just to add a little bit of light on that basket back there. And both of those are being powered with the Aputure Delta Pro, which is a massive power station, and it can power like 1200D Pros and stuff. Like, it's a super powerful power station, and I made a whole video about that, which I encourage you to check out to learn more about. And I'll leave links to all this stuff in the description down below. Aputure did send me the Delta Pro for review, but I think all the other lights that I'm using I've purchased with my own money. That's a lie. Amaran also sent me the Amaran 300C, but all the other lights have been purchased with my own money, and that's a lot of money. Ask my wife, she's super stoked when I purchase a light. So those are the lights outside being powered by the Delta Pro. Huge thanks to Aputure for sending that out to me for this video. Next up, we have the key light, which is being motivated by those lights outside, and that is the Nova P300C, and that is set to, I think, 6800 Kelvin. And the reason why it's set to that is because the fabric here, the magic cloth and the silk, will warm up the light. Just from experience, I know that it warms up the temperature of the light. So if I want to match the CCT of what's coming through this window, then I've got to make the light a little bit cooler so it'll get closer to 5600 Kelvin. And I just made a video on how to make sure you exactly match your CCT between your different lights, and I encourage you to check that out. It's with using a color meter, which sadly I don't have in my possession anymore because it was on loan from B&H. But that's what we have going on with the key light, Nova P300C. That light is typically used as a key light behind some fabric, so I can have really nice soft light like what we have right here. But if I am not using the Nova for a key light, if it's a simpler setup with like maybe the 300D for my key light, I will use the Nova as an exposure lift if I'm looking for more of a high key, brighter room, don't want to have such a moody look. And I'll link videos to that where I talk about that as well. And then lastly, I have the Amaran 300C with the Spotlight SE 36 degree attachment, and that's just kind of giving some hard light right here to add just a little bit of texture here. Probably could come down and output a little bit, but I'm running out of time. So, and then it's just giving me a little bit of an edge right here and just kind of giving me like a little bit more hard light. And I think it's just helping like add a little bit more texture to like the wrinkles in my shirt. Now, two other lights that I want to mention that I always bring with me on set, and if I had more time, I would actually incorporate into this. And the first one is the B7C. I have a handful of Aputure B7C bulbs, and those are practicals. They fit into like a standard light socket, and that gives you the ability to control any lamp practical with CCT, RGB, green, magenta, you name it, you have that control. And I always use those. I've used them in a number of different videos, different projects, just to be able to control that color temperature and the output how I want. And if I had more time, what I'd probably do is maybe put it like behind me over here and just kind of cheat it in a little bit, just to add a little bit more visual interest. And then what I would do is I would boom the Amaran F22C, which is the next light that I always have with me on set, and that is a flexible LED light. It's a 2 by 2 foot LED panel. And the reason why I love this light so much is because you can boom it overhead super easily because it's super lightweight. And I've used that for like a hair light or scratch light, or even with the lantern that came out like last year. I'll use that for like booming overhead for like a round table, or like on a recent spec project, I used that to basically be the key light for all the talent for an outdoor scene. And the F22C being an RGB WW light, I have all the flexibility and tunability of an RGB WW light. So it's a super flexible, no pun intended, a super versatile, flexible light to have in your kit. You can tape it up to a wall, or I mean, you name it. And I made a video about that light as well. So that's gonna be it for this video. I think this turned out looking good. If I had more time, I'd finesse it even more. But this is watching me set up something in a rush. So that's pretty much all we have. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in any of these lights, then I encourage you to go check out the links down in the description below. And big thanks to Aputure for supporting this channel and sending out the Delta Pro. I'm absolutely in love with it, and it has saved me on so many shoots already. So definitely go check it out. Check all the other videos out. I'll leave them in the description below. And that's it. I think my kid's waking up, so I don't have to talk as quiet and awkward. Peace. And I guess I should play the guitar a little bit since I was awkwardly holding it this whole time. What do you think? Yeah. My wife's over there. She doesn't want to talk. She's looking at me like I'm a nerd. I don't want to like play anything because then I don't want to get like a copyright strike. So that makes me even look more awkward.